Hello and welcome to a special edition of Advertisers Watching Ads. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Oatly Creative. And normally I do a weekly show where I interview brands about other brands' ads and just a bit of fun. And then I got a strange email from Oatly, and Michael Lee said, could you review the most recent Oatly ad on Advertisers Watching Ads? And I was like, of course, brilliant. So earlier today, we released the 3 industry experts reviewing that ad. And now I'm going to interview Michael in this kind of meta way about his view of their view about his ad. So Michael Lee, can you tell the audience a bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Michael, and I'm a creative director at Oatly. I've been there or here for about 4 years now. Nowadays I work mostly with the UK and the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland.
So if you haven't seen the ad, here is some of that content.
We aren't real, Al. So I'm not real. You're a puppet, mate. Remember? We aren't real. I'm not real. We aren't not real. So I'm not real. You're real to me, Al.
So, Michael, why did you want this creative to be reviewed on Advertisers Watching Ads?
I think, when we spoke the first time, I just thought that we had a nice conversation about all things Oatly, and I kind of liked the rapport that we had. And we've been working with the production on this campaign for about 8 months. So we've done 5 episodes, and I've seen each one probably about 10,000 times a piece. So I'm just gone completely numb to it. I just thought I've seen that you've done this Advertisers Watching advertising, and I thought, well, why not put these spots on there and see what people have to say about it.
So I'd really like to know what you thought of the Advertisers Watching Ads episodes.
When I watched that, 3-4 minute clip, I laugh, I smile. I think it's a great bit of communications. It tells a tough and slightly boring, although we shouldn't be bored about saving the world, but we can be story in a really rich way. And I don't mind the puppets going on about the existential crisis. I quite enjoyed it.
I just really liked it. I mean, not only is it completely on point for veganary, the flexitarian whole concept of that, the whole series is based on, it's so timely with people giving it a go of being a vegan for January, giving it, and then very quickly starting to go, actually, it's not for me. That's one of the other episodes that really resonated with me. But just overall, the concept's brilliant. It is from the minds of people I'd love to meet them, but I just thought it put a massive smile on my face. And what's not to love about that?
And I love what they're saying around in some other episodes. It's not all or nothing. You can break the rules sometimes, and that's okay. Playing on the words, Norm and Al and all that, fantastic. I just didn't like the puppet bits at the end. I'm not real. I'm like, really? Aren't you real? Well, never realised that.
First of all, what was it like watching your ad being reviewed by your peers?
I don't know. It was fine. I think
fine. That's like fine as in fine, not great, or fine as in it was okay.
No, it's it's always interesting to hear what people have to say. I think what surprised me was how positive they were, because we're just not really used to that. We're just used to having kind of dealing with a wave of negativity, and then kind of doing some judo to turn that to our advantage in some way. But I think that for the most part, I thought that they were quite positive about the campaign, and
I thought they were incredibly positive. So what I'm really keen to know is, how did you come up with this idea It might be good to just explain a bit about the Oatly creative process for people who don't know it.
Yeah, well, we don't really have any process for anything, and a lot of people often ask us about strategy. We don't really have much of a strategic process other than just whatever kind of makes sense at the time, if you can call that a strategy. But I mean, where the idea came out of was, everyone's been talking about this new normal, and we've actually done some ads in some markets where we talk about Oatly being the new normal. And I just felt that was, it sounded kind of Darth Vader-ish, especially now with the pandemic. The new normal has taken on kind of a negative twinge to it. It's also about change, and nobody likes change. So then one day, we just put a little ampersand in between Norm and Al, and then it became the new Norm and Al, and then that just became the new Norm and Al show. And I'm not sure how we got to puppets, but that's kind of where it ended. I think it was really about trying to find a super digestible and easy way for people to meet these messages. And we thought, well, why not puppets? Who doesn't like puppets?
So, and before we get into the puppets, why did you put an ampersand? Like, what was that? Is that like 10 of you sat around the room, or was it like this all on Zoom? Like, why did someone put an ampersand there, and why did someone notice it?
It's just one of those random things. I was just staring at the headline on my screen, actually, and then I thought, well, why don't we just put an ampersand there? I mean, literally, I don't know why. It just because
when you talk to me about, when you mention that, and that this is gonna like sound like the most ridiculous thing in the world, but I've only watched the first episode of the Get Back Beatles thing, but there's that amazing bit where they're practicing a song, which ends up being in like the sort of the bridge of Don't Let Me Down, and they're just playing it over and over again, and they're playing for an hour, and they're arguing with themselves, and it's so funny because as a viewer you're going, don't let me down, but like they haven't made that connection yet. And then they go, oh, we're doing this for an hour, man. And then there's right at the end of that scene, they finish and John goes, don't let me down, and they clock for him that moment. That was his like ampersand moment. I'm not comparing this ad to Don't Let Me Down or the Beatles, don't get me wrong, but it sounded like that kind of moment where you do the weird thing and you're like, it stops you in your tracks. You're like, oh, maybe the weird thing's the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was really like, we were just going to go out with headlines just saying the new normal and with an Oatly pack. But again, like it just felt a little bit Darth Vader to me.
Why is it Darth Vader? You said that before, and I've kind of missed what you mean.
Foreboding, like the new normal. It's just it's change, and it's like. And nobody likes change, and it feels difficult and a little bit scary, and something that you just don't want to do. So I think we were just looking for ways to break that in some way, and that little ampersand just kind of did the trick, I guess.
So there's a couple of different directions I want to take this. Wasn't there any sort of anxiety around the new normal being a kind of sort of COVID related thing? Like, when I see the new normal, that was my first reaction to it. It was like, oh, right. What, like video conferencing, like working from home? Like it took me a while cognitively to get, oh, you're right. You mean milk. I mean, obviously you think it was obvious, but it wasn't immediately obvious to me. That's one of my criticisms. I was like, why are they jumping on that? But you've borrowed someone else's, or you've borrowed popular culture's phrase, which is the new normal, and gone, no, we're going to have this for milk, and we're going to do a puppet show. So was there any doubt about it being the right way to go? Clearly not, but curious to know if that was discussed.
No, not really. I think what we kind of liked about the term was that it was so loaded.
Right.
That everybody had these would have kind of an immediate reaction to that term, but then putting it in the context of Oatly and then making the connection to plant-based versus milk, there was just a nice little friction there that we thought was sticky.
And I get the idea that, and I'm not surprised to hear you say it again, that you're refuting strategy, and I assume there's no research, but how did you get to the new normal in the first place? How did you, yes, it's very Darth Vader and loaded, I get that, but how did you, was that one of like 10 different positions you came up with, or like, how did you arrive there?
Well, I mean, when you look at it from in terms of the plant-based movement, I mean, you can say that plant-based is becoming the new normal to varying degrees in different countries. So that's always been a mission for us, that plant-based would be normal. It's kind of like 15, 20 years ago when people talked about digital advertising. That was kind of like the new thing. That was like, there's advertising and there's digital. And now it's just advertising. So it's in the same way, it shouldn't be, plant-based shouldn't be the alternative. It just should be the normal. So in that sense, we're working towards trying to get society to accept plant-based as the new normal. So
really keen to know what was left on the cutting room floor. Like, what was that idea? Like, someone was like, hey, the Norman Al show, puppets. Like, what didn't make it? What was the idea that was like, no, that's too weird or unusual?
I don't remember actually, but I do remember sending a note in Teams to the people that I'm working with, and just prefacing it with, "You want to hear something weird?" And then I wrote the new Norman Al show, and then this guy named Andy, copywriter who I work with, he just wrote back, "Brilliant," and that was kind of it. And that's how we started the puppet journey.
So what that sounds like to me is you came up with the idea based on the ampersand, then you sent it to your team, and then they signed off your work.
Basically.
So you got to the new Norman Al show, and then you don't remember, like, what happened then? Like, what was the creative process? So what was it? Was it like, did you have like a brainstorm on Teams? Is it like, right, what could this show be? Is it, you don't know where the puppets came from, but how did that start to evolve? Was that like all done in half an hour, or was this over weeks?
A little bit of both. I mean, I think we pretty quickly sketched out just some storylines that we wanted the puppet show to take, and pretty early on, we wanted to do a miniseries to create several episodes. Initially, I wanted to do 12 episodes, but that would have cost a fortune. So we pared it down to 5. But I think that, the idea just came about pretty quickly. It was just essentially trying to help society navigate this new plant-based world with these 2 oat drink cartons that would just kind of help you along. That would help you on the way. And there's 2 characters. There's this guy named Norm, and there's Al. And Norm is kind of like the wise one, or wiser, who's kind of already committed to plant-based. And Al, we wrote him to kind of represent all of us, represent society in dealing with like all the trials and tribulations of going plant-based. So based on that as the core idea, we just developed. We actually developed 30 or 40 scripts. I think Andy wrote about 40, 50 scripts that we just culled down to these 5.
And so, another criticism I have of the idea is that, and I might have missed this, and I apologize, but there doesn't seem to be like a narrative arc for the whole thing. Like, there's this tension. There's a tension now. It's interesting to hear that Al being described as the audience in that role. But I was asking, the guys like, what is the continuation? What is the unresolved tension here? Where's are these guys going to go from A to B? Whereas across the episodes, I didn't see that. And that's just my view, but does that matter, or is that coming later? Or are you going to go to the CEO and get some more money and do your 12 shows? Is this going to turn into a story? Is this going to be a Nicole and Papa or a Maxwell House? Or tell me, understand why there isn't an obvious story here.
Well, that was kind of intentional, actually, because I think one of the things that we're very, very cognizant of is that we operate in an industry that can be super, super preachy about stuff, telling you what to do. You need to do this to save the planet, blah, blah, blah. Let's everyone think about the kids. And I think in a lot of the work that we do, we try to kind of shy away from that and let people come to their own conclusions about what to do. And when it comes to all this plant-based eating and should I go vegan, should I not go vegan, should it be flexitarian, not flexitarian, our view is that nothing is black and white. And so it was quite intentional with the show that we wanted to, make it so, people watching it would maybe have even more questions than when they started. So that was a bit intentional to try to just kind of have people kind of think about these things and make up their own minds about what to do next.
Because one of the things that I really liked about it was, I can't remember which episode, but it's basically saying it's all right to think about milk sometimes, or even have milk sometimes. It's not about being perfect. Whereas I think back to previous Oatly campaigns, and I'm not as intimate with all of them as you are, obviously, but it's like the idea of milk for humans. That's a big like FU to like the dairy industry, right? That's not make your own mind up. That's like you're drinking cow's milk, and that's weird. So what I liked about this was it was like, well, you can move in this direction, or I think you can dip your toe in the water, as one of our guests suggested. But it seems like you've moved away from converting the planet friendly, if you like, to now converting the mainstream a bit. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we constructed this campaign to go after the mainstream. I mean, the plant-based movement has gained considerable ground within the past, 5-10 years, but it's still not even close to mainstream. So, 3 or 4 years ago, when we were in shortage, telling people to ditch milk or saying it's like milk made for humans, I think that really resonated with the crowd that was just kind of on the cusp of things. But now with this campaign, we're trying to reach everybody, and so that's why we went with puppets, because who doesn't like puppets? And also, it's like you can't be preachy to people who are not even close to trying anything plant-based. So, and there was also another aspect of it. It was like, you have a coach like on a basketball team. I mean, I used to play basketball, and some players respond differently to different tactics. Some respond being provoked, some respond with more of a soft touch. I don't know. How's that for a strategic workaround for your question?
Did you want to ruffle feathers more with this? Did you want to be doing the judo bit? Have you built that muscle memory now, and now it's not getting to be used this time?
It's kind of a new thing for us, actually. People
the mainstream, the new normal for you guys is the center of the middle.
But I don't know. I mean, we always talk about being consistently inconsistent. And I was reading an article that someone had written about us, and he was talking about the difference between branding and storytelling, whatever that means, and that branding, there was like a consistency in like key visuals and colors and tone and voice and stuff. And then he used us as an example, and I took a screenshot of our website, and it was like, what is Oatly doing? It's all over the place. I actually would contend with that. I think that there is a voice that is consistent through our work, but we do different things. We'll petition governments. We'll provoke with telling people in shortage to ditch milk. And we'll do puppet shows, and we'll write super long Instagram posts. And when Corona comes, we won't talk about oat drink at all, just because we think everyone needs a break. So I think that the strength of our brand is, or one of the strengths is that people just don't really know what will come next, and hopefully these puppets are unexpected for.
I think that is absolutely sure. But I was having this argument with a guy called David Byrne from Aviva, that I was referencing a conversation or an interview on my podcast with another brand, Gareth Turner from Weetabix, and he had this quote, which is, his boss said he doesn't want creative marketers, he wants consistent marketers, or something like that. I probably got that wrong, and it really stuck with me. He was like, "Oh right, yeah, like in an FMCG space where you've got good awareness, people would consider buying you as a thing, but like that having just that consistency of messaging and tone and visual showing up." And David in Aviva just said that's BS. That's just like, it's fine if you're a really big FMCG brand, but it made me think of this execution that, yeah, you're predictably unpredictable and you never know what's going to come. But like, as you move into the mainstream, when there's like even more like oat milk or dairy alternatives, that you're going to be in that space of like, it might as well be Oatly or Minor Figures or, in Sainsbury's Own or whatever. Like, and at that point, the consistency and repetition of your brand may be the thing that makes you stand out. Like, you can't always be the radical brewdog of milk. Or can you? Or is that it? Are you going to have this conversation in 10 years' time? Go, Tom, I'm still inconsistently inconsistent. Sorry, I'm making a meal of this question, but like, can you carry on being subversive and dangerous and provocative while you head into the mainstream? Once you're there, once you're the Coca-Cola of oat milk, isn't that just going to be a bit weird if you're still being acting like teenagers in the nicest possible way?
No, I totally get your point, and I think it becomes very difficult to do. I also think that we always talk about. Of course, we're not the scrappy upstart that we were, 5-6 years ago. Now we're a global brand. We're listed on the stock exchange. But with that comes, leverage and power. And I think it's about using that power in the same kind of punk way. I mean, we talk about, like, in the face of increased competition, different oat drink brands or any plant-based brands is coming into existence every day. There's a tendency to just kind of go back to, the marketing playbook and say, oh, here's a situation where you're in a competitive field. You need to find your unique difference, and you need to do product ads, and you need to talk about the benefits of why you're better than this one. And we actually are very cognizant not to fall into that trap, and to continue to try to provoke society in different ways, because otherwise we just become, one of the competitors. We just become part of the wallpaper of brands that people see in supermarkets. So I think it's incredibly important that we continue to stick to our guns and fulfill this mission to try to change society.
So one of the comments from Julia Linehan on the show was that she felt that it might be a route down towards the children's market. Was there anything in that? And you've said, who doesn't love puppets? I don't particularly love puppets, but it's just like, well, puppets are fairly universal. But was there any sense that like it might sort of start to target an incredibly young audience by using puppets?
Well, we actually never thought that. I mean, we always this campaign was always kind of positioned for adults. The media buy is all I think 18 or 24 plus or 18 plus. So the campaign, this campaign was always meant for an older audience.
And Jerry Dakin's point was that it's quite a big ask, and not all people have the luxury of time to even watch a 30-second teaser. But yet you're advertising your advert in a sense. So was there an anxiety that like you weren't making this work in like super short form? I know you said you've done cut downs or teasers, but Jerry's saying you're asking a lot to stop watching TV, then go to YouTube and then watch a whole series like that. That's not exactly a rotating GIF of a product. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but was that a concern that the ask was very, very high? Yeah,
I mean, I think our thing is that, just like our Instagram posts, if the copy is good, people will read it. And if we make these shows, funny and entertaining enough, then people will seek them out. One of the things that we did want to do with these episodes is make them feel like they're not commercials. If we had to pack everything into a 30-second spot, it would feel like, an ad for children's cereal or something. It would just feel like a commercial would feel. And when you have the luxury of 2 to 5 minutes, you can put in a 5-second awkward silence. You can delve deeper into some storyline and create some semblance of character, and that's what we wanted to do. Yeah, we did create these trailers to act as kind of the teasers that would get people to the hub on YouTube or on Oatly.com. And for me, it was always like, even if people just see these trailers, that's fine, because essentially we've made because the two characters are Oatly cartons. It's essentially just a product campaign. And so when you watch the first episode, which is 5 minutes long, you're staring at our product for 5 minutes. So the sales guys love that.
It's always I'd love to do an edit which is like it's set up as a commercial for children and then gets really dark. When Milk comes along and he's talking about, if it wasn't for that pesky science, and he loses his rag about it. I think that's one of my favorite bits. But just to quote Emma Roffey here, she really enjoyed it. Interesting to get a B2B marketer to review it, I thought. But she was saying that kind of that sort of the bit about the puppets being real and they're not real. And then I think at the end of one of the episodes, it's just like the end slate, and there's a minute's worth of audio where it's discussing the crisis of one of the main characters. So, and you go really heavy on that. You really push that joke to it's as far as I think as you could. So the question here is, did you go too far there? Is the in joke breaking the fourth wall necessary? Could you why did it be 5 minutes? You could have definitely nailed most of those messages in 2. So and if you could do 5, why not do 10? Why not make it like a half-hour show? So help me understand how you knew when enough was enough and when too much was too much.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if you ever know But I think that for us, it's like we had to make these so we like them, and if we didn't like it, then why do it? So actually, that sequence at the end came about from improvisation in the studio when we had the actors kind of working out the script. So we wrote a script, obviously, and did some versions of the script, and we just asked them to go bananas. And so that was a take that they just went really, really long-winded with, and we just thought it was really funny. So we kept it in.
So yeah, just curious to know. So two questions. Why do you think this is great? And what are you disappointed about with this execution?
Why do I think it's great? I think that I think if people see these and think to themselves, "Wow, this is really weird and entertaining, and I'm kind of learning something, or it makes me think about something, or pushes me towards trying or considering something plant-based," then that's kind of a win for us. Disappointed. I don't know. I quite like them. I don't know. Yeah, I think the question for us is do we continue with Norman Al in the future on some stuff, or do we just like say, okay, that chapter is done and do something new?
So, are you going to continue with the Norman Al show?
I have no idea. We don't know yet.
Come on, don't give me that. Don't like. I'm not gonna make you commit to the work. But I'm like, you must have had a conversation. Is your feel that this is going to run, or is your feel that like let's be unpredictable and do something else?
Well, I think we'll, we always just kind of follow the momentum on where the energy is and what we're doing. So if we feel that it'd be fun to make some more puppet shows, then we'll do that. We did have an idea of once Norman Al kind of found some fame through their show in this campaign, that they would try to kind of corral that fame into new careers as paid influencers, and then so other brands could hire Norman Al to pitch their stuff. So maybe we'll do that. I don't know.
Right. Or yeah, well, as long as they don't end up in like giant out of work actors handing out leaflets outside Sainsbury's in Tottenham, then
well, I think that would be brilliant.
Or if they were completely wasted, drunk, rolling around on the floor, that might be newsworthy. Anyway, I'm stop coming up with crap ideas during an interview. Michael, we've gone massively over time, but thank you so much. That was a fascinating insight into a very unusual campaign.
No problem. Always a pleasure.